The morning erupted with a noise so absurd, I thought it was a prank from some early radio show. A battered pickup truck wheezed down my gravel driveway at dawn, kicking up a dust cloud that smothered the air before my rooster could even crow. Out stepped a woman in stilettos, a neon pink blazer so garish it sent my goats scrambling, and a clipboard clutched like it was the Ten Commandments. She marched to my porch, slapped a rolled-up notice against my door, and announced, loud enough to startle the horses, "By order of the Bright Valley Homeowners Association, you're notified of eviction in 30 days for failing to meet visual standards." I stood there, barefoot, coffee mug in hand, head still groggy from sleep, staring in disbelief. "Ma'am," I said, "this is a ranch. You're 5 miles past your cookie-cutter cul-de-sacs." She didn't flinch. That's when I knew this wasn't a jokey, it was a declaration of war, and they had no clue they'd just tried to evict the county judge. When Cassandra Holt introduced herself as Bright Valley HOA president, my patience started fraying like an old rope. She launched into a rant about new community boundaries, aesthetic mandates, and compliance deadlines, spitting the word violation 5 times before I could set my mug down. My barn, she claimed, was an eyesore ruining the scenic harmony of their expanded territory. My horses were disruptive livestock, and the fence I'd built a decade ago was substandard. I tried to speak, but she tossed me a pamphlet titled Bright Valley, Crafting a Flawless Future, and kept going. I unrolled the notice she'd taped to my door, a sloppy document riddled with typos and bizarre legal jargon. At the bottom was a signature from someone claiming to be the county registrar. Problem was, I knew every registrar in this county, and that name was fake. A chill ran down my spine. Cassandra, misreading my silence as surrender, patted my arm like I was a senile old man. "I know this is overwhelming," she said, "but you have 30 days to vacate, or we'll enforce removal." I stared at her, long and hard, before speaking. "Cassandra," I said, "do you know who I am?" She smirked. "A rancher, obviously clueless about modern zoning." I smiled, slow and sharp. "I'm also the county judge." Her scoff was instant. "And that's supposed to scare me?" I held up the notice. "It should, because whoever forged this just signed themselves up for a legal nightmare." Her smug grin flickered, but she rallied. "Our legal team has vetted everything," she insisted, though her voice wavered. Adjusting her oversized sunglasses, she vowed to return with proper authorities and strutted back to her truck like a B-movie villain. I watched her go, already dialing the county recorder's office. Inside, I tossed the notice on my kitchen table and called my clerk, Sarah. She picked up instantly. "Sarah, dig up every filing from Bright Valley HOA in the last 6 months and check for anything under Cassandra Holt's name, especially with fake titles." Sarah, who could spot a forged notarization from a mile away, was on it. I poured fresh coffee and stepped onto the porch, gazing at the fields my grandfather had worked. No clipboard-wielding tyrant in a pink blazer was turning my ranch into a suburban lawn. Later, I rode out to the north fence, where my neighbor's land touched the edge of Bright Valley. Old Mr. Thompson flagged me down, waving an identical notice, same typos, same fake signature. This wasn't a mistake. It was a land grab, banking on folks not knowing their rights. Too bad for them, I wasn't just a rancher. I was the law, and I was ready to wield it. The HOA's antics escalated fast. Cassandra's compliance team started loitering outside my property in a golf cart with a blinking yellow light, snapping photos of my barn, well, and tractor. I caught them measuring my shed like they were plotting to bulldoze it. When I approached, they sped off like kids caught spray painting. Cassandra sent 2 more citations, one for improper hay storage, another for unsightly dirt piles. I nailed a sign to my gate. "Trespassers will be judged." Sarah called back with a gold mine. Bright Valley's filings were a mess of illegal zoning claims, unapproved expansion maps, and a notarization seal discontinued years ago. It was all fakey, a house of cards built on lies and HOA arrogance. The final straw came when Cassandra sent a final eviction notice, delivered by 2 teenagers in bright vests on scooters. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. They asked me to sign for it. I invited them in for lemonade, took their clipboard, and wrote "Void County Judge" across it. They wobbled off, clearly out of their depth. That night, I stood on my deck, watching the sun sink over the pasture. My horses grazed, oblivious to the chaos. Cassandra thought she was bullying a quiet farmer. She didn't know she'd picked a fight with a judge who wrote the laws she was trying to twist. Court was coming, and I was ready. The next morning, I marched into the county recorder's office with a box of fake citations, forged maps, and screenshots from Bright Valley's website. The receptionist's eyes widened as I dropped Cassandra's jurisdiction map on the counter. "This looks like it was drawn by a toddler," she muttered. "It's being used to evict people who never joined this HOA," I said, "including me." The deputy clerk confirmed my ranch was zoned agricultural, untouchable by any HOA. Within hours, we verified Cassandra's expansion was unapproved, claiming land it had no right to, including mine and 3 others. It violated an ordinance I'd authored 5 years ago. I left with certified documents and a fire in my gut. At the zoning department, I pulled the original Bright Valley plat maps. Their boundary stopped a mile short of my fence. Cassandra's map was a fantasy, swallowing creeks, roads, and private plots. The zoning officer, a kid named Liam, asked, "What's your plan, Judge?" I grinned. "I'm going to show them what happens when you try to scam a court with a doodle." That afternoon, a Bright Valley volunteer approached with another mandatory compliance check. I took his clipboard, saw the same fake format, and asked his name. "Jake," he stammered. "They said I'd get free dues for helping." I snapped the clipboard in half. "Tell Cassandra her check just became a criminal case. And Jake, stick to mowing lawns." That night, I drafted an injunction request, sending it to Judge Emily Carter in neighboring Oak County, who hated HOA overreach. She fast-tracked the hearing, laughing when I described Cassandra's map. "She annexed your ranch?" she said. "That's like claiming a naval base because you mowed its lawn." The town meeting was Cassandra's last stand, held in Bright Valley's glossy community center. The flyer called it a compliance summit, but it was her stage to flex power. I showed up in jeans and a faded shirt, hat low, blending into the back row. The room buzzed with confused residents and curious retirees. Cassandra took the podium like a talk show host, her pink thermos glinting. "Welcome, Bright Valley family," she chirped, projecting a warped map with red zones she claimed were now HOA territory. The crowd tensed. She unveiled a slide on eviction protocols, casually outlining how to oust non-compliant residents. A woman up front asked, "Are you talking about kicking people out of their homes?" Cassandra smiled. "Only if they resist progress." Then she showed my barn, labeled slated for demolition. I stood, slow and deliberate. All eyes turned. Cassandra froze, her grin twisting into panic. "Mr. Grayson," she stammered, "this is for members only." I removed my hat. "Then call security," I said, "because you just slandered a county judge in front of 60 witnesses." Gasps rippled through the room. Someone dropped their coffee. Cassandra tried to rally. "You can't intimidate us," she snapped. I pulled out a folder. "This proves you forged zoning maps, fake citations, and overstepped your charter by miles. I filed an injunction, and a judge will hear it Friday." Her voice pitched up. "This is harassment. I decide what happens in Bright Valley." The room went silent. I stayed calm. "You're an HOA president, Cassandra, not a dictator. And your throne's about to burn." I handed a USB to a guy recording in the front. "Play it," I said. The projector flickered, showing Cassandra at Thompson's gate, threatening to seize his livestock over manure odor. Other clips showed her bullying a single mom over a mailbox and mocking a veteran's ramp for ruining curb appeal. Cassandra lunged for the cable, but the man blocked her. "It's public now," he said. Someone shouted, "Call the sheriff." Another yelled, "You're unhinged." Her board members backed away, one muttering, "We thought this was legal." The meeting collapsed into chaos. I walked out as Cassandra's screams echoed, her empire crumbling in real time. The Oak County Courthouse was a sturdy old building, its brick walls heavy with history. I arrived early, dressed in my judge's coat not for show, but to remind everyone what was at stake. A crowd gathered outside, news crews circling for shots of the HOA president who tried to evict a judge with a fake map. Cassandra arrived late in a gleaming SUV, clutching a binder, her pink blazer faded by nerves. She dodged cameras and vanished inside. The hearing room was packed. Judge Carter presided, her sharp gaze cutting through the tension. I introduced myself as Daniel Grayson, landowner and victim of HOA fraud. Cassandra's lawyer fumbled, calling her president of the expanded Bright Valley. Carter raised an eyebrow. Expanded since when? The tone was set. I presented the original Bright Valley boundaries, then Cassandra's bloated map claiming land it couldn't touch. The contrast was absurd. This was used to threaten evictions, I said, handing over fake citations, videos, and affidavits from neighbors. Carter grilled Cassandra. Did you authorize these? Cassandra trembled. I thought we had authority. From whom? Carter pressed. Cassandra had no answer. Her lawyer's draft proposal excuse fell apart. A handwriting analyst confirmed the forged signatures, with Cassandra's name at the core. The gavel slammed. Bright Valley is guilty of misrepresentation, forgery, and unauthorized enforcement, Carter ruled. The map is void, citations rescinded, and the HOA's charter is under review. MS. Holt is liable for all false filings and barred from civic roles pending investigation. Cassandra gasped, her face ashen. Her lawyer's plea for a stay was shot down. You abused the system, Carter said. This court won't indulge it. Outside, reporters swarmed Cassandra, who mumbled weak excuses. My neighbors met me on the steps, Thompson with a handshake, Maria with tears, one with a grin. The fallout was swift. Bright Valley's charter was suspended, its board dissolved, and residents began opting out. Cassandra vanished, rumored to be fleeing the state, her name now a regional punchline. I returned to my ranch, hanging a sign, protected by judicial ordinance. Violators prosecuted. Judge Carter sent me her old gavel, which I hung in my study. It wasn't about land, it was about power, about lies cloaked in paperwork. Cassandra thought her title made her invincible. She forgot titles mean nothing when you break the law. Weeks later, the ranch was peaceful again. No golf carts, no notices, just quiet. I threw a ranch bash with lights, a band, and hay bales. Neighbors danced, kids played, and we pinned Cassandra's notice to a dartboard, riddling, non-compliant, with holes. A reporter asked what I'd learned. People fear paperwork more than fences, I said. Cassandra didn't need an army, just a clipboard and fake authority. The danger's in the quiet threats, not the loud ones. But one person saying no can stop it. A new cooperative formed, not an HOA, just neighbors helping neighbors. I stayed on the sidelines, boots by the door, files ready. One day, I saw Cassandra at a gas station, handing out flyers for a car wash, her swagger gone. I tipped my hat as I passed. She froze, eyes wide, then looked away. That was enough. I'd won not with rage, but with the law, the land, and the truth. My ranch stood firm.